Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name is Shreyanshu Bhatt and this is our fourth lecture of the CSE 101 playlist. This lecture is going to be a continuation of our third lecture, and in this lecture we are going to discuss about Python. We'll explore it further, learn about if-else statements, loops and functions. Okay, so let's jump right into it. Again we'll use Programmers for this lecture. Okay, so we are back on Programmers and here we will start with conditional statements today. Let me just uncomment this. Yes. If you're wondering how am I selecting and uncommenting it in a go, then I'm just pressing Ctrl and a forward slash. So yeah, that's just a keyboard shortcut that's helpful to know. Okay, so what's this code? Let's learn more about it. So this is a variable called age and we are taking an input from the user, which is enter your age, and we are typecasting it to an integer. Now we will check that if age is greater than or equals to 18, then we'll print you are an adult. ELIF. What does this means? It basically means it's the second case, like else if. So in Python we write it as ELIF, elif. So elif age is greater than 12, we will print you are a teenager, and otherwise, like if anything that's not greater than 12 or greater than or equals to 18, so we will print you are a child. Okay, so let's run this code and test it out. Enter your age. You are an adult. Okay, so now what happens if I enter, let's say 5? Yes, it says you are a child, and if I enter something like 15, it says you are a teenager. So this is how conditional statements work. Let's comment that out. Okay, now there's something else called match case. In other programming languages, this is also popularly known as switch case. So let's see what this is. So here we have a choice variable where we are storing the user input, which is enter 1 or 2. Now if you might have noticed, see, here also we are taking a number as an input, and here also we were taking a number as an input, which was the age, but here we typecasted it to integer and here we are not typecasting it to integer. So here when we use the case matching, see, we are putting it in double quotes, which means that we are using it as a string, both this 1 and 2. If I would have written this integer over here, then this double quotes would have been removed. I hope you are understanding my point. Okay, so let's move on. What is this block of code saying? So we initialize this choice variable and now we will match choice. If choice is 1, then we will print you chose 1. If it's 2, we'll say you chose 2, and if anything else except for 1 and 2, then we'll say invalid choice. Okay, so let's try it out. Let's say 1. It says you chose 1. Now let's try 2. Perfect, it works. Now let's try any other number. Let's say 3. Invalid choice. Correct. So that's how match choice works. Okay, now let's talk about loops. So there are two types of loops in Python, a while loop and a for loop. So let's learn about them one by one. So this is a while loop. Now what is this syntax? First we are initializing the count variable to 1. Then we are saying that while count is less than or equal to 5, we will print count is count. And then we will increment count by 1. So this is an assignment operator, plus equals to. This basically means count equals to count plus 1. If we want to write it in shorthand, we say count plus equals to 1. Okay. So let's try and run this. Yes, so it says count is 1. Then the count gets incremented, and as the count value is still less than or equal to 5, we enter this block again, and then we say count is 2, 3, 4, and up till 5 it works because this is equal to. If I remove this equal to, then it will only print it till 4. Okay. Now let's see how the syntax of for loop is. Now here we are saying we never initialize this I. It will be by default start from 0. Okay, so for I in range 5, where 5 will not be included, it will be less than 5. We will print I equals to I, and this will self increment. We don't need to do this count plus equals to 1 the way we did it in a while loop. For loop, it will be done behind the scene. Okay, so let's run this. Yes, it started from 0 and it did not include 5. If I want to include 5, then I'll have to write 6. Yes, so that's how a for loop will work. Now there is something important that we need to talk about, which is the loop control. Now here we will discuss about the break and continue keywords. Okay, so this is similar to the above syntax, right? The for loop syntax. So here we are saying that for I in range 5, if I is equal to 3, we break the loop. If it is not the case, we just print I. So as I said, the incrementation will work behind the scene, right? And what does this break keyword does? It basically exits the loop. So let's try and run this code. So see, when I was 0, so this condition was not true. So we just printed it 0. Then it incremented behind the scene. Then I became 1. So still the condition is not true. I is still not equals to 3. So it got printed. Same for 2. But as soon as I turned 3, we completely exited the loop. Now what happens if I write another keyword called continue? Let's try this out. Yes, so what continue does is that it skips that particular iteration. So what happens is that as soon as I will turn into 3, we will skip this line. This print line will be skipped. Everything that's below, whatever comes below this continue will be skipped, and we will move on to the next value of I. So that's how continue works. So these were the two loop controls that were very important to know. Now let's move on to functions, a really important topic. Let's first start with the basic syntax of a function. So this is a function. The name of this function is greet, and we are taking in an argument which is name, and here this is a just like a keyword. When we are defining a function, we write def, then the function name. If we want anything input to the function, then we'll write the code after a colon. Now you see this indentation, so that's really important in Python. So you need to keep that in mind. And if you want to call this function, so we write greet and then we pass in the value whatever we want to call. So the name value will be Shreyanshi, and then it will be printed hello Shreyanshi. Let's run this. Yes, it says hello Shreyanshi. Now if I pass something else like hello John. Yes, so it says hello John. That's how functions work. Now we can also give return statements in functions. Let's check that out. So this is a function called square. It takes in a value called x and it returns x multiplied by x. So it basically squares a number. So what happens when I print square of 4? It should print 16. Yes, that's right. So that's how return works. If this would have been addition, and if I would have done this, it would have given me 8. Oops. Oh, I forgot to change the name. Sorry, guys. Yeah, it says 8. Okay. Now, there's something called a default parameter. Now, what is that? Let's see. Okay, so here, this is the same greet function. Now, I set the name to viewers. So if I don't give any input to it while calling the function, so it will just print this default value as the name. So hello viewers will be printed. Let's see. And what happens if I do give it a value like hello world? So it will say hello world. So this viewers is a default value that we are giving to the function. That's called a default parameter. Now what is a parameter and what is an argument? See, let's just uncomment this again. Now here this name is in the definition of the function, right? This is the definition of the function. So this name is a parameter, and this value world which we are giving to it while calling the function, that's called an argument. So arguments are in the function call and parameters are in the definition. So this name is a parameter and this world is an argument of the function. Okay. Now as a bonus for this lecture, I will explain these two things, which are args and kwargs. Now that's a little bit of a complex topic, so please pay attention everybody. So what are args? They are basically variable positional arguments. Now this is an example. So if I define a function called my function and if I pass in the arguments like this, star and args, if I write this, and then I say for item in args, print item. Now if I call this function and give any number of arguments, right? Not parameter, arguments. So 1, 2, 3, even if I say 4, so then I will get this output. So that's what it means, variable positional arguments. Now args collect all extra positional arguments into a tuple, while kwargs use a dictionary. So what is a kwargs? It is variable keyword argument. So if here it's the same function, my function, but instead of writing star args, if I write double star kwargs, then for key value in kwargs.items, as it is a dictionary, so we will have a key and a value, we will print key equals to value. Now if you are thinking what is this F thing, so basically if we want to print this key and value over here, so we will have to use this syntax. We'll have to wrap it in a curly braces and then we will have to use this F thing to get it printed. And here if I call this function with name equals to Alice, now name is the key and Alice is the value, age is the key, 25 is the value, and we are giving multiple key value pairs to the function. So the output will be like this. Name equals to Alice and age equals to 25. So as I said, kwargs collects all extra keyword arguments into a dictionary. So that is it for this lecture. In the next lecture, we will start with DSA 101. So please make sure to attend that one, as it is the most important concept of computer science. I hope you liked this video. Thank you so much for listening to me till the end, and I hope you have an amazing day. Bye bye.